to our dad on the Cressman podcast.
Today's guest was born into a Canadian country music dynasty. Now, good old country fans like myself remember the family Brown, Tracy Prescott and Lonesome Daddy, later known as Prescott Brown. And that Juno award-winning duo had many monumental musical achievements. But they also had Kaylin Prescott, and they had our guest today, Kelly Prescott, who is forging her own legacy with her own raw, edgy, and yet quite traditional music, at least the last few releases. It's very proprietary, very interesting, very exciting, and represents a new edge in the format that I think is going to be really compelling. So the new single is called Trailer Trashed. It has been distributed by Warner Canada. Welcome to the podcast, Kelly.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. So I'm sure you get this question a lot, probably drives you a bit crazy, but everybody's going to be curious. You've got some big shoes to fill. You come from a musical family with quite a legacy. Does that put more pressure on you, or is it an advantage?
In my 20s, especially my early 20s, I think I felt that pressure a little bit, and that was purely I put that on myself. Definitely. You sort of feel like you need to live up to everything that they accomplished. And, I had to, as I got a little bit older, I had to remind myself the industry has changed a lot over the years. And I haven't always taken the obvious route or the easiest way. I tend to take the long way around. And so now, it's, of course, there are big shoes to fill, but I don't feel that pressure. I feel like I'm kind of creating my own lane, and my parents have been so incredibly supportive since day one. So um, I'm really lucky. It has been an advantage to a certain extent, I would say, because I do have a family that has been in this industry, gets it, that has all that knowledge that I have definitely been able to rely on. Um, but no, I'm at a good place where I feel like I'm kind of doing my own thing, and whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, I mean, those are all good points. I think the industry has changed a lot, especially in the last decade, but previous to that as well. Uh, it's just interesting because I'm sure there are times where you guys have butted heads on strategy
Oh
or
yeah.
approaches, and so without disclosing too much, it would be great if you could articulate an example of something that you're like, Mom, Dad, I need to learn this lesson the hard way, or I need to learn this lesson my way.
Oh, I could give you many. Like I said, I always seem to take the long way around, and I think it's difficult for people that love you and want the best for you to watch you do that, to watch you make things harder for yourself than they need to be, and
And sorry,
because
just to clarify that, what does
yeah,
that mean? Does that mean staying
well,
so authentic to a vision that
yeah,
may not necessarily be sexy and marketable at the time? Is
yes.
that sort of what you're getting at?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. I think it's yeah, been watching me kind of stand my ground and do what I wanted to do and be 100% authentically myself. Um, I like I said, they've been really supportive, but I think there have been times in this industry. I mean, I've heard more no's than I've ever heard yeses. It's been a long road, and so there were definitely a few times where I think they wanted me to contact certain people or try certain things, and it wasn't for me, and so not really fitting the mold has been a little tougher for sure. But like I said, I took the long way, and I feel like because I did things that way, and because I didn't find a lot of success at such a young age, I'm actually grateful for that because I really know myself now. I know what I want, and I know what I don't want, more importantly.
Yeah, you can
And
stand in your power more as you start developing more collaborative relationships on the business side,
yeah.
and I'm sure too that as it pertains to that overused word authenticity, at
Mhm.
least if you're making your decisions, you get to own the success and the failures.
Yeah.
There's something to be said for self destiny.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and I have owned all of those failures, my friend.
Now, what are some examples of that? Like, where do you feel like you have had a vision that obviously in the long run is working out for you, but where you've made a few mistakes? Because a lot of our listeners are artists themselves, and a lot of them are
Mhm.
starting out. And so I always like to tap into that a little bit, even if it's a little uncomfortable, to say, hey,
Yeah.
listen, like if you could do things differently, or if you could revisit something, is there an example that you can cite where you go, you know what? I had to learn that lesson the hard way. I don't regret it. But if I could do it again, I wouldn't do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. I try not to have, I mean, it's so cheesy to say this, but I do honestly try not to have too many regrets because that that can keep you up at night. That can eat you alive. But there have definitely been a few things that I would never do again. I had a bit of a rough patch when I moved to Nashville, and I was working with a label down there that just kept pushing me in a way I didn't want to be pushed.
Pop
And
country?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And not that I have anything against that. It's just it wasn't where my heart was, and I really, at the time, was. I mean, I've always loved 60s and 70s country. That's honestly most of the stuff I listen to. And that's really what I wanted to make. I wanted to make a bit more of a traditional record, and
Yeah.
I kept handing them songs. They kept telling me no. They would say the usual like, let's find success with 3 records first, and then you can do whatever you want to do. Then you'll have the fan base to do that. And so I tried. We both tried. It was nobody's fault. They were just doing what they had to do. They're running a business, and at the end of the day, we all need to make money to survive.
Hmm.
Um, but
Did
yeah,
the
just
people that signed you at the time know what you wanted to do? Do you feel like you articulated the vision with enough clarity in the
yeah. Well,
beginning?
it's funny because after I fell out of that um, deal, still managed to continue working with, as you know, Billy, who is to this day still my manager. So she was actually
She's
the one
awesome.
that, yeah, I love her so much. I'm so lucky. I found not only an amazing manager, but a friend too. She's actually the one that signed me, and then she left. She left Edge before I did, and she, I think she's smarter than I am, so she knew what was up, and she got out of there. And I know it once again took me a while to learn that hard lesson, but by the time I made it out, I was pretty broken. It took a while to recover from that, I'm not gonna lie. It was a bit of a blow for me, and but it ultimately led me to making the last EP that I released, Love Wins. And, it's funny at the time, I was just like I said, I was so devastated, but out of that came some of the best songs I've ever written, and through that through that deal, I met so many amazing co-writers in Nashville that I still get to write with. So it's yeah, it sucked. I'm not gonna lie. It really sucked. But like I said, so many great things came from it. So in the end, I feel like it was supposed to happen that way. And I ended up coming back to Billy, and her and I have been working together the last 2 years again, and I couldn't be happier. I feel like
Shout
I
out
found
to
my
Billy
people.
and those beautiful little twins of
I
hers. Oh
know.
my God, they're
Oh,
so adorable. Every time I
excellent,
get
Betty.
pictures, I just melt.
I know.
Um, well, that's great to hear. And I think one of the reasons why people find music so therapeutic is because artists have this innate ability to take pain and interpret it into a language that we can all feel and
Yeah.
understand and process. And regular people have a very hard time sometimes articulating how they feel, and artists are masters at it. Not only can they articulate it, but they can put it to a melody. You know, it's
Yeah.
why music is such a backstop for mental health, and why it
Mhm.
helps people through difficult situations. And would you
Absolutely.
say that as you have aged and gotten older, you've been able to take your painful personal experiences and professional experiences and channel those more into your art?
definitely. And as you just said, you started that off with therapy, right? You said it's music is therapy for people, but maybe what the listeners don't know is that it's actually therapy for us to write those. It's so therapeutic for us to take what we're feeling and sometimes it can be bottled up quite a bit and you get into the right room with the right people and it's such a release to not only just put that all out there but then to have all of that sitting out there turned into 3 minutes and 30 seconds of something that might help somebody else that's going through the same thing, that's feeling very alone. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've been through it in this industry, ups and downs, way more downs. Um, but there have been a lot of personal stuff I've gone through too. Yeah, I went through a divorce, and it was a really tough time. And through that, I didn't intend for that to happen, to write a full EP about going through a divorce and then falling back in love again, but I did, and I know it's resonated with a lot of people, and I, regularly get messages, women, men, whatever, reaching out just saying that they just feel so alone going through going through that, you feel guilt, shame, whatever it is. But when you hear someone else sing about it, it kind of just makes you feel like, okay, yeah, this is a human experience, and I'm definitely not the only person going through this. So it's a nice feeling.
Yeah, it's got to be pretty rewarding for you to lay your feelings out with that level of vulnerability and have people who not only endorse it and appreciate it, but connect with it and maybe it helps them process their pain too.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean that's the point of music, right? To tell a story and hope that you connect with people through that.
Well, let's talk about something with a little more levity. You're
Yeah,
about to go on the road.
yeah. Sorry, we
You're
got just a
you're
little
gonna make
sad
me
there.
cry. You're about to go out on the road with Alan Doyle. That's exciting. I would imagine Alan, being a staple of Canadiana, is somewhat of a musical hero to you.
Oh my gosh, talk about somebody that has remained so authentic. Um, I'm such a huge uh sorry, I'm just telling somebody to turn down the music. That just got really loud up there. I don't know if you can hear that. I apologize.
No, it's all good.
Oh, okay. Yes, Alan. I've been a fan of Alan since I was a kid. I mean, we all grew up listening to Great Big Sea. Um, so it was amazing to get that call. I begged my agent to put my name in the running for this tour, and it came at a. I mean, not to go. I'm not going sad again, but it came at a time when I was going through all that, falling through with the label in Nashville, and it was a point in my career where I thought maybe maybe I just need a sign. Maybe I'm not going to continue doing this. I feel like it's just been going downhill. And I sort of put it out to the universe. I said, listen, if I'm meant to continue in music, give me a sign, give me the Alan Doyle tour. And sure enough, Julian called me the next day and told me that, yeah, Alan wants me to go on the road with him. So I took that as a sign, and then the ball just continued rolling after that. So, until of course the pandemic hit and we were mid tour, we were in Vancouver, and we flew home, and I think it's been rescheduled 3 or 4 times now. So to say I'm excited is an understatement. I cannot wait to get back on the road. Um, Not just get back on the road, but get back on the road with Alan. He's just so wise and so warm. He's really great human to tour with, and um, he's hilarious. He's the funniest person I think I've ever met in my life. It's just a riot. It's a riot being on the road with him. I've learned so much from him, and I continue to. So it's great. It's nice to have another friend like him in this industry.
It's so great when you can get out on the road with somebody that you're truly a fan of and you truly revere.
Yeah,
Like not everybody gets that opportunity when they're taking support slots early in their career. Sometimes they're
yeah,
going out on the road literally just to connect with an audience,
yeah.
but But the fact that Alan, as well, is such a great mentor and such a good guy, it's so exciting. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And as it pertains to performing live, I mean, you've been in front of audiences essentially your whole life. Do you still struggle with getting up on stage to any degree?
Oh,
Do you have any discomfort whatsoever?
absolutely. Yes. I'm always just a ball of nerves before I walk on stage. Feel like it no matter how much time passes, that's still a thing for me. I still get stage fright. I think especially after a year and a half of not really doing it as much, feeling that a little bit more right now, just like, okay, am I gonna remember my songs? Am I gonna is my voice gonna come back 100% after not using it properly for the last year and a half? So yeah, I think those are all definitely real fears, but you know, once again, I'm not trying to sound cheesy, but it is so true that the second you walk out there and you stand in front of that mic and the adrenaline kicks in, right? It's just that all melts away and you're like, yes, okay, this is where I'm
This is
supposed to
where,
be.
yeah, this is where I'm meant to be.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there's something to be said for using faith, whether it's in God, the universe,
Hmm.
whatever force that's bigger than you that you
Yeah.
trust, in terms of helping steer your destiny. There's something to be said for possessing that belief as a way to mitigate anxiety. And I think that
Hmm.
people who don't believe in something bigger than themselves often struggle with feeling like they're being judged all the time and feeling
Huh.
like they're not in control of their destinies and feeling like they're spiraling, and
Yeah.
other people, it sounds like yourself, have this ability to sort of put things out to the universe and go, hey, listen, if this is the right thing, it'll unfold, and if it isn't, then it won't, you know
Hmm.
and and certainly something to be said for that, especially in the arts, where your ability to accept rejection and failure is directly proportionate to your degree of success.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. And yeah,
When
that's
did you
it's
develop a belief system that was more based in faith? Have you always had that? Were you raised that way, or did you just sort of develop that more as an adult?
um I wasn't music was my church growing up, but I think that yeah, the universe thing came to me later in life. I think just or I read a lot about it and manifesting and um I love what you said about just believing in something bigger than yourself. And it's it's so true. If you think you're you're the whole world, then yeah, you're gonna spiral for sure. Um, but yeah, I'm a bit of a dork when it comes to that. Like I don't know if you've heard of this email, Notes from the Universe.
I
It's
have heard of it. They
that
also have an Instagram page, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I wake up every morning, I start my day with my little note from the universe, and it's sometimes it's short and silly, sometimes it's long and deep and meaningful, but it's just always a nice way to go, okay, yeah, wait. There are other things at play here. There are other forces, and I really do believe that if you put it out there, that there's a lot of power in that. So, yeah, I think that definitely came a little later in life.
It also helps you sort of navigate the disappointment because Garth Brooks talks about it quite extensively in his old song from the 1990s, Unanswered Prayers, right? And
Mhm.
we've all experienced versions of that where we've been
Yeah.
gunning hard for something and it's at the top of our goal list, and then we don't achieve it and we're angry as hell or disappointed or hurt or anxious. And then something else unfolds and you realize that that just wasn't an opportunity that was meant for you, and that the universe was holding something better in its possession for you.
Yeah.
And yeah, I anyway, whenever I encounter people who have that belief,
Mhm.
and I don't always want to conflate it with religion, because I think that
Yes.
there are aspects of religion that get pathologized and
Mhm.
even a little crazy. But I think that just that belief, that backstop of, I know there's something better out there for me, and I know that the opportunities that I miss ultimately weren't meant for me.
Yeah.
And that just helps you navigate disappointment. It just
It
does. It's just one of the
does.
most effective mechanisms we have.
Absolutely. And, you've been in this industry a long time too, longer than I have, but I'm finally at a point in my life now where I'm seeing those setbacks as, okay, wait, just pause for a second. Um, the last couple setbacks that you had all led to something greater. So, I'm definitely seeing that now and looking back at all the letdowns, all the no's. Like I said, it's sort of led me to something else, something maybe a different path, maybe not the one that I saw, but uh, definitely to something greater. And I'm really grateful for that. I'm pretty grateful I didn't find success at a young age because I feel like I wouldn't have learned those lessons, and it wouldn't have shaped me into the person and the artist I am now. So definitely a lot of hard lessons, but hey, I'm still here. I'm still making music. So
Yeah. And life
gosh,
is happening for you, not to you, right?
yeah, yeah.
That's the thing that you sort of start to realize as you get older.
Hmm.
So another door that's been open for you recently is signing a deal with Warner Canada, which is super exciting. They've been very aggressive in the country music space. We work extensively with them on Brett Kissel, who's a
Of
client of mine
course.
and has been for over a decade. Um, why Warner? Why was that the selection for you?
A couple people have asked me this lately, and um, to go back to the Edge days when I was living in Nashville, the label I was dealing with down there, their distribution was through Warner Canada. So I met those guys. I had already met Cody and Kane previously at a few events and whatnot, but it was my first taste of working with them, and I just fell in love with the team. I fell in love with all of those guys. They're just such huge music lovers. It wasn't just country music. We could actually get into a conversation about some obscure 70s artist, and they we could have a full discussion about that, and that I love that. That blew my mind. Um, and I just felt really, really comfortable with them. I felt like it's funny, I couldn't be myself down there, but when I came up, it just felt so, like, just warm, and it felt like home, and I knew that's where I wanted to be after even just working with them for, not even a year, really. So once again, I put it out to the universe, and it took a few years, but, uh, it finally happened, and I was shocked. So I was shocked, I that we signed in earlier this year in late fall or late winter, early spring, and it came at a bit of a difficult time. My dad had actually just had a stroke 24 hours before they called and told me that I had the deal, and, I almost canceled that meeting with them because my dad was in the hospital, and I was not I was not doing well. I was, um, just
How's he
so
doing now?
he's making really good progress. Yeah,
Good.
I'm so happy once again to get back to the pandemic. I mean, this gave us time to come home and help out with my family. So, another little silver bell there, or silver lining. Sorry, I was about to just plug my Christmas song, Silver Bell Linings. I'll get to that. No, another little silver lining there. We wouldn't have had that time if we were still on the
Mhm.
road. I wouldn't have been here. And being in music, you can't take time off when you're on
No.
tour. So yeah,
No, I
anyways,
remember, back in the late '90s when Smash Mouth was, hot as hell and they were on the Shrek soundtrack and they were out on tour
oh yeah.
uh, the lead singer's son, his infant son passed away.
Oh my
And
gosh.
while he was out on tour and the summer amphitheater tour was locked in and they just couldn't take any downtime. So he literally took a
Oh.
weekend off to go home and went back out on the road. And I remember thinking at that time how insanely inhuman aspects of our business can
Yeah.
be because we are as a community, we're all pretty conscious and aware of mental health and
Mhm.
bolstering each other and encouraging each other. But every once in a while, the rubber hits the road in a situation like that. And it's like, hey, too many people depend on this. You just can't
Yeah.
back out. And
Oh my gosh. Oh,
so
that's
back to your silver
awful.
linings comment,
Yeah.
you're right.
Yeah.
Like, COVID has afforded you the time creatively
Yeah.
and the space to connect with your family. And I think that as much as it's been a disruption for many of us in the music industry, we also
Mhm.
have to figure out how we can process this differently and look at it as though it's something that was gifted to us.
Absolutely, and
As
I think it's been a really good, we were talking about the reset, and it's also just now coming back into this, I think we're all a little bit more aware of our boundaries and a little bit more aware of our energy and finding that work play balance or that work personal life balance. I have a lot of friends that are struggling with that right now, but know that okay, wait, I was exhausted. I was burnt out before this happened. So how can we still, manage to make a career out of this, but not just completely lose ourselves. So it'll
yes,
be interesting to see how we adapt to this coming back into it and whether we can actually find a healthier balance. We'll see what happens.
it's certainly going to give people the coping mechanisms and the tools to understand where their life was unbalanced, as you just
Yeah,
alluded to, right? And sometimes awareness is all you need. Awareness is the
yeah.
great instigator for change, right? It's the one
Mhm.
thing you need in order to go. I mean, personally, I'm like, I'm not spending 150 to 200 days on the road a year anymore. I'm just not. I love traveling. I love going to gigs, but I love being home and having a routine and spending time with my daughters and picking them up from school. That
Yeah,
matters to me. And those days will be gone before I know it. And I'll always have a career in music. So
yeah,
you just got to prioritize. And I'm grateful for this time because otherwise I was just on a treadmill and I wasn't paying attention. I didn't know any other way.
mhm,
And now it gives you the chance to reset and reevaluate. And I think that that's
yeah.
imperative. Back to the Warner deal.
Oh,
So
yes.
you
Yeah.
establish rapport with Cody
Mhm.
Kane and the rest of the team in Canada. You established a
Yeah.
relationship. I would imagine you kept talking. Billy, vigilant manager, stayed on them.
My little
But
bulldog.
at the end of the day, yes, she is. At the end of the day, you had to deliver a package of songs that would
I did.
compel them to want to invest in you. So
Mhm.
tell us a little bit about that process and how confident you were that you finally had the songs after all these years of wanting to sign with this group that you knew
Yeah.
would give you the deal that you wanted.
Yeah, this like I said, all that extra creative time that we never would have had being on the road. So it really gave me a chance to sort of dig deep and figure out what I wanted this next project to sound like. And as I mentioned to you before, I have a huge love for not just classic country, but just like 70s music in general,
Yeah,
whether
you've
it's
got a real Linda
soul.
Ronstadt feel
Oh,
to
okay.
your
So
music.
thank you, because
Yeah.
she's my, she's top three biggest influences of all time. So thank you for saying
And
that.
I didn't
That's
read that anywhere. I just picked it up.
wow.
Yeah, I
Hey,
know.
that's really cool. You know what? You're
I
one of the
know.
only people that have ever said that or have ever picked that up. So thank you. That's a huge compliment.
It's
Yeah,
timeless.
I
The thing
love
about Linda
and
Ronstadt is she's timeless.
she is,
And
and I think that the reason I was so drawn to Linda was that she also didn't really fit in anywhere. She did it all. She could sing country. She could sing folk. She could sing rock. She could do
pop. Yeah,
pop, like any
at the
genre,
time.
and could yes, of course, and had so much crossover success doing all these different things. And even then, when she stood up to her label and said, "No, I want to make a Spanish record," she was ballsy. I love her so much. Her and Emmylou Harris always been my big ones. So yeah, back to that. Like loving 70s music the way I do, I thought, you know what, let's do something a little different. Let's kind of write some more soulful country some soulful retro country stuff. So that's what I did. I mean, I've got a ridiculous vinyl collection, and so with all that extra time, we just sat there and listened to records and went,
Let
I
that
like.
spawn your creativity.
Yeah, I was like, oh,
Mhm.
I love the strings in this particular Glenn Campbell song, and I love this in this Roger Miller song, and through all that, it was like, okay, it's started brewing some ideas and started calling up some of my favorite co-writers and even working with some new co-writers. That was another thing. It was, so many writers in Nashville are usually so busy. This kind of freed them up a little bit. And I l- it took a while to adjust to the Zoom writing, but once I did, I loved it. I was writing all the time and writing some really cool stuff. And I think that people really appreciated doing something different. It was really nice to sort of step out of your comfort zone a bit and try something that you wouldn't always get to do writing in Nashville. So, yeah, I was pretty confident in these songs. We sent we sent 10 to them initially and then another 10, and they ended up picking all of my favorites, which to me I was like, okay, this is great. I'm finally home. I'm with my people and they love exactly what I love. And the references, they were, Kane would write me back saying, oh man, this is like little Bobby Gentry, or this is like some Dusty Springfield. I was like, okay, yeah, no, this is right. This is where I'm supposed to be.
Creative
S-
alignment.
yeah, it really was. They get it. And I'm so happy that they're willing to take a chance on something a little bit different. And like I said, just let me be me. That's huge.
And I think the time is right for it.
Yeah.
Radio isn't the only way to break anymore, even though it's
Yeah.
still critical for country music. And I don't want to piss
Yeah.
off any of our radio
No,
friends. I
no,
love
no,
you
no.
all,
Yeah.
but you can develop an audience, like Ashley McBride has through streaming and social media, and just a bit of a different sound, and still have success at radio. But she had to build it outside of radio in order
Yeah.
to reintroduce it as something with some credibility there. And
Yeah.
and then as soon as radio is in the business of selling a product and investing time in artists, trading that musical product for airtime that they sell to sponsors. So they just want something they think is going to work. And if you can back it up with data and analytics, and you can obtain those through social media, through streaming services, they'll generally roll the dice, even if it doesn't fit entirely with the sound of the station.
Yeah.
And I'm a big proponent too of, we always talk diversity, but
Yes.
these days we've defined it as the amount of melanin in your skin and what
Mhm.
gender you are, and that's fine. But diversity within the format, diversity of
Mhm.
sound, sonic diversity within the format is what makes it stronger. I love the
Yeah.
fact that I can hear a song from a pop country artist like Kelsey Ballerini, who to me is doing what Shania Twain did in the 90s, but
Yeah.
differently and with better production. And then I
Yeah.
can hear somebody like Corey Marks or Eric Church or Brantley Gilbert. And then I can hear someone like yourself. It's like that is how we keep the format strong. We
Yeah.
we appeal to a broad array of tastes all
Mhm.
under one umbrella.
Yeah.
And hopefully country music is in a place where it can be excited about sonic diversity too.
Yes.
Just something I always preach when I'm talking to my friends on the CCMA board and that sort of thing. It's like, yes, let's build a great show that's diverse and looks diverse, but let's build a show that sounds diverse
Yes.
as well.
Oh, it's
Let's
nice
build
to
a
hear you.
format that sounds diverse.
Yeah, it's nice to hear you say that. It's a refreshing take, I think. I don't think everyone feels the same way, so, that's, yeah, it's really great to hear, and I feel very much the same way. I think we need more diversity across the board when it comes to, yes, sonic and, just being more inclusive in general with, uh, race and sex.
Everything
Uh,
else. Yep.
but I think it is changing. It's slow, but it definitely is changing. And um, I think in the states it's changing faster when it comes to certain things. my favorite country artists aren't exactly the ones that fit radio. I love, Jason Isbell and Yola, and I mean,
Sturgill Simpson.
yeah, yeah, I loved the newest one. That's so good. It's so good. Um, and even like Leanne Womack is still releasing such killer country records.
She's
Uh,
so underrated.
oh, she has to
So
be
underrated.
one of the best vocalists I've ever seen live. I
Yeah.
saw her at the Ryman a couple years ago. She just got up and did a few songs. What was I there for? Something for Buddy Miller. And honestly, my entire body was covered in chills, and it was a religious moment, like sitting in the Ryman, watching her just get up. She's just so effortless, and oh, her voice, yeah, it brings me to tears. She's one of the best, totally underrated. I don't
Yeah.
know.
She's the closest thing we've had to a modern version of Dolly Parton.
Yep,
I would say
definitely.
since the late '90s, early 2000s, and yeah, back to the diversity in the format. During the golden ages of country music. If you think back to the late '80s, and there was, Garth Brooks was coming along, and Randy Travis, but there was still Ronnie Millsap doing this really cool
Yes.
punchy
Oh,
pop country thing with some synth in it, and
yeah,
Sawyer Brown was doing their thing, and
yeah.
Alabama was over here and sounded totally different. And it's like, and then there were these power bluegrass artists like Ricky Skaggs,
Oh my
and
gosh, yeah,
we need to remember that as we talk about diversity. It's like,
yeah,
yes, let's not lose sight of the fact, though, that people are listening to this format, and that if
yeah,
all the songs start to sound the same and we start using all the same co writers and producers, we are going to choke this thing out because we're going to
yeah,
appeal to a very narrow demographic, and we need to keep it broad. And,
yeah. I
you know,
agree.
hopefully,
I'm
hopefully that continues to be perpetuated.
I'm such a fan of California country too. That's like, back to Linda and
Buck
um
Owens and Dwight
yeah,
Yoakam and
Graham
Gary Allan.
Parsons.
Yeah,
Yeah, so many.
yes.
I mean, even the Eagles, like they had some, I think, they're I would call some of their stuff country too.
Well, if you
So
released an Eagles record today, it would be marketed on country,
right?
without a doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Same thing with Springsteen or Mellencamp or Petty, probably. Like
yeah,
most of these
maybe.
artists today, if you were dropping a new record on them, you'd be shopping it in Nashville for the most part, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy to think how much has changed, but yeah, it's like you said, I mean, it definitely needs to be, sonically more inclusive. I agree with that, and, I think Canada can be slow in that department. We can be a bit safe up here, but it is changing. It is changing,
Yeah.
and it definitely, it appeals to more country appeals to more people now. It's not the same audience it was in the '90s or even the, early 2000s. I like that about it. I think that country music is for everyone now, which is
Well,
really nice.
if you think about it this way, Jewel had a folk country record in the late '90s that she dropped that was insanely successful on the pop charts, but she really
Yeah,
didn't cross over at all to country till later in her career. But again, if Jewel was to release a new record today, it would be a
it
country
would be.
record. So
Yeah.
pop has become so production focused and hook focused that it has abandoned the singer songwriter, and that has done nothing but wonderful things for our format. So we should lean
Yeah.
into that as
Yeah,
much as
absolutely. But I mean,
possible.
Ingrid Andress coming out of
Yes.
nowhere and just cleaning up the last couple of years. Uh I think there is a resurgence of that singer-songwriter in country. It's nice to see. I mean, even one of like Robin Ottolini, I freaking love that girl so much, and she's just singing really honest, everyday stuff, and it's so relatable. People are eating it up, and I love to see that. I think that it's this singer-songwriter thing is changing a little bit. It's not the same, but I mean, everything has to evolve. But I love that that's coming back, not just storytelling, but yeah, just real honest lyrics. I feel like there's so many artists doing that right now, and it's great to see. A lot of the I've been writing with a couple young people lately in Canada. Lydia Sutherland is a girl out of Montreal who she's going to be a household name soon. This girl is going to blow up. She is unbelievable. She's in her early 20s and she's one of the best co-writers I've ever worked with. And she's been writing with Robin a lot too. It's just so nice to see this young batch of artists coming up that have so much confidence in who they are and are just already so talented and so authentic. It's pretty cool to watch the next generation doing their thing. So it gives me hope for the future.
A lot of optimism. So let's talk about your future as we wrap up here.
Yeah.
What's happening in the next 5 years for you? Obviously, we talked about how exciting things are to be working with Warner Canada
Yeah.
and all of the creative blessings you've had. What do you predict is going to be happening in the next 5 years for
Oh,
you, and what are your priorities and goals?
well, I've been putting a lot of things out into the universe lately. Um, for me, I think I've always wanted to build a career on just a long-term goal. I want longevity. I want to continue to be able to make music that I love, that I believe in. I've got some big goals. I'd love to play the Ryman someday. That's a huge one for me. I'd love to open for one of my Americana idols across the US. That would be, gosh, that'd be a dream come true.
Emmylou Harris would do. That would do.
That would do. That would do just fine. That'd be number one right there. If I don't, I've never really set my sights on awards. Maybe just because I feel like that's the wrong thing to do. You kind of putting the cart ahead the horse for sure. But
It's
if
awards
it,
should really be a byproduct of overall career success and not
yeah,
something that are focused on or manipulated. And I couldn't agree
yeah,
more. And you know, it you're already to some degree a slave to external praise when you take up carrying the cross of being an artist,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Why do you want to propagate that even more by
yeah,
playing into the awards politics, right?
yeah.
It's like
And why put more pressure? Yeah, why put more pressure on yourself in an industry that already puts so much on you? So I think I'm definitely making some realistic goals, but also, I got some little secrets in the back of my mind that I'm hoping for too. But I think just if I can keep putting out music that I love and hopefully continue to grow the fan base and um maybe write with some bigger writers that I really look up to. Sarah Buxton, that's always been on my bucket list. Laurie McKenna, um, just to get in a room with some of those people would be so huge for me. So yeah, I think it's just continue being creative my own way.
perfect way to sum it up. Thank you for taking the time to do this, Kelly. I know we've only met sort of in fleeting, but it was really nice to get a chance to actually sit down and talk with you. And thanks for sharing your knowledge and your wisdom and your dreams and your vulnerabilities. And I got a lot out of this, and I'm sure other
Good.
people
I
will too. So
same. Well,
thanks
thank
again.
you. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to talk to you. Very easy.
I am looking forward to seeing you achieve all those things, and please stay in touch.
Thank you. Thanks.